gentlemen, and students. The fourth grade class here at Forest Hills welcomes you. As you know, Augusta is celebrating her 250th birthday this year. Our class has done a unit of study about Augusta. We've seen films, visited the museum, and toured our city. We would like to share with you some of the things we learned. We present to you now the story of Augusta, in song, dance, and story.
The story of Augusta began millions of years ago. The continents of the Americas were once joined to Europe and Africa and drifted apart. Can you imagine Savannah Beach a part of Africa? Can you imagine that the site of Augusta was once a seashore? This means the land met the sea along the fall line. The sandhills were ancient beaches. They still contain countless fossilized forms of sea life. Has anyone dug up a seashell in his own backyard? The flatland region between Augusta and the Atlantic was covered by the ocean a million years ago. In that far-off time, thousands of years ago, no people lived here. The great Atlantic Ocean washed the shores. Beginning as a stream, the Appalachian Mountains, the mighty Savannah River glided to the sea. Wild animals roamed the vast forest. This land, which we now call Augusta, had been like this for thousands of years. All these riches of nature were here, but there were no people to use them.
Come to the area of Augusta probably came from Asia. They followed a trail traced by the buffalo and deer because they were nomads who hunted the buffalo and deer. The first Augustans were Indians of 5,000 years ago who learned to supplement their meat diet by eating the shellfish they found in the river. These Indians used the shells for jewelry, tools, and other utensils. After 1,000 years, they began to make clay pots. They lived in houses made of animal skins. They planted a few crops.
When Hernando de Soto, Spanish explorer, first marched to Augusta in 1540, he was well received by the Courteous Creek Indians. Of course, he found no gold, but he found a good land, one fit to raise supplies. In the 1600s, Augusta was a busy fur trading post. Imagine as many as 1,000 traders coming into the little Indian town, building their crude lodges to store their trading supplies. There were always Indian customers. Creeks from the Chattahoochee, Cherokees from the mountain country, and Catawbas from Upper Carolina. The first music heard in Augusta must have been made by the Indians in preparation for their hunts and religious ceremonies.
General James Everett Oglethorpe from England founded the colony of Georgia in 1733 with the first settlement in Savannah. Oglethorpe heard of the thriving trade upriver and in 1736 ordered the town to be marked off. Oglethorpe had a well laid out plan of 40 lots in checkerboard fashion. The settlement was renamed in honor of Princess Augusta, wife of new Prince Wales. In 1737, Oglethorpe's men constructed Fort Augusta to protect the struggling new community against the threat of invading Spanish and hostile Indians.
General Oglethorpe did not get to visit Augusta until September 1739. He was on his way back from a visit with the Indians on the Chattahoochee. His visit must not have been a pleasant one because he had a terrible fever. A group of Cherokees came to complain about the Carolina fur traders, and he found out that the war with Spain had begun. The early settlements of Augusta and Savannah were dependent upon ships which brought supplies from England and also brought new people into the settlements.
We sailed upon the seven seas, wind up that anchor, boy. We sailed upon the seven seas, wind up that anchor, boy. The wind blew rough, the wind blew cold, it roared and blew us in the hold. We'll raise the anchor, then we'll sail the deep blue sea. A-heave, ho, the captain's left behind again. We'll raise the anchor, then we'll sail the deep blue sea.
We landed on a distant shore.
Wind up that anchor, boy.
We landed on a distant shore.
Wind up that anchor, boy.
The cargo landed on the dock, the crew and went upon a lark.
We'll raise the anchor, then we'll sail the deep blue sea. A-heave, ho, the captain's left behind again. We'll raise the anchor, then we'll sail the deep blue sea.
The town of Augusta began a slow but steady growth, and in 1750 the settlers built St. Paul's Church, which became the center of activity. All church denominations met here, as this was the only church building.
On the eve of the Revolution, Augusta contained about 100 houses. There were 4 stockaded forts thrown up during the Indian alarm of 1774. By 1779, as more and more boats carried cargoes to the port of Charleston and Savannah, Augusta was large enough to serve as the temporary capital of Georgia when Savannah was captured by the British during the Revolutionary War. Fort Cornwallis was built around St. Paul's Church during the war. Much fighting took place in and around Augusta during the Revolution of 1778 through 1782. It is possible that Georgia would have remained in British hands if Augusta had been captured June 5, 1781. The last 2 years of the war were dismal for Augusta because crops could not be planted and there was a food shortage. The war left Augusta with its church and many homes destroyed. Yankee Doodle was the favorite song of the soldiers during the war. It was played at surrender of Cornwallis at Yorktown.
Yankee Doodle went to town riding on a pony. Stuck a feather in his hat and called it macaroni. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind music and the step and with the drums be handy.
Father and I went down to camp along with Captain Gooden, and then we saw the men and boys as thick as 60 pudding.
Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind music and the step and with the drums be handy.
There we see 1,000 men as rich as Squire David, and what they wish me every day, I wish they could be saving.
Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind music and the step and with the drums be handy.
And there was Captain Washington upon a slapping stallion, giving orders to his men. I guess there was a million.
Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind music and the step and with the drums be handy.
Let's see the little bells too, the heads were made of leather. They knocked on them with little clubs and called the folks together.
Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind music and the step and with the drums be handy. Yankee Doodle went to town riding on a pony. Stuck a feather in his hat and called it macaroni. Yankee Doodle, keep it up, Yankee Doodle dandy. Mind music and the step and with the drums be handy.
Richmond Academy was founded in 1783, which is the oldest school for boys in the South. Augusta became Georgia's capital from 1785 to 1796. The most important event during this period was a visit to Augusta of President George Washington in 1791. The president was greeted by a speech by Governor Edward Telfair and entertained by a ball at the Governor and Miss Telfair's home. On the following day, there were more speeches in the courthouse and another ball at the Academy on Telfair Street. On his third day, the president attended an examination of all the students at the school. After one more night in Augusta, Washington departed with the good wishes of Augustans ringing in his ears. Let's look in at a beautiful ball and see the elegantly dressed guests as they dance the minuet.
Many families from Virginia moved in and around Augusta in the late 18th century. They planted tobacco. With the invention of the cotton gin by Eli Whitney in 1793, area planters began to grow cotton on the grand scale. Augusta streets were piled high with bales of cotton waiting to be shipped downriver. With this boom, Augusta was charted as a city in 1798. In 1800, Augusta had over 300 houses. Broad Street had over 100 stores. The people worked hard clearing land for crops to be planted and houses to be built. But they also had some fun. They had house raising, husking bees, and quilting bees. After the work was finished, they would feast, play games, and dance.
I have a ship on the ocean, lined with silver and gold. Before I see my true
period from 1830 to 1860 was known as the Golden Age of Augusta. 6 banks opened, of which the Georgia Railroad Bank is still in operation. The Georgia Railroad was built, which connected Augusta to Charleston and to Marthasville, which soon became Atlanta. Commerce and shipping continued to prosper, and in 1847 the Augusta Canal was completed, which provided power to operate several big cotton mills. Many Irish families moved to Augusta to help build the railroad and canal. As relaxation from the hard work, the people enjoyed dancing the Virginia reel to the tune of the Irish washerwoman.
Augusta's role in the Civil War was both significant and sorrowful. Barely 15,000 in population, Augusta at least sent 2,000 of her sons to the front and mourned her losses as the death list came in throughout the war. Augusta, because of its central location and canal water-powered, was determined the ideal site of the main Confederate powder works, which was constructed here in 1862. Over 2 miles of factory buildings producing over 3 million pounds of the finest gunpowder in the world escaping Sherman's guns and torches.
There has been much speculation as to why Augusta was spared destruction when General Sherman's march to the sea, particularly since its location is smack in the middle of his route from Atlanta to Savannah. Romantics claim that General had once fallen in love with the sister of his former West Point roommate who was an Augustan. When Sherman entered the Apollo of Mount Lion Plantation, he had taken over for his headquarters. He spied a portrait of a lovely lady house, none other than his old flame. Although Chef led the city, pure sentiment dictated, and he diverted all his troops around the city, leaving it untouched. The war between the states, which was meant to last only a few weeks, lasted 4 years. The war ended with Lee's surrender to Grant at Appomattox on April 9, 1865. Let's listen to a song which was sung during this war. To welcome home our darling boy. Hurrah, hurrah.
Augusta bounced back quickly during the Reconstruction era after the war. The canal was enlarged and deepened in 1875 by imported Chinese laborers. The canal produced 14,000 horsepower from many new textile mills. Hard work was an accepted part of life, but Saturday night was a time of play and relaxation. But then the people met in the schoolhouse or a meeting house and sang and danced. Their favorite dance was the square dance, which was uniquely American.
The Civil War had played havoc with many of the wealthy families who had contributed to the Confederate cause. To help revive their depleted bank accounts, some Somerville residents opened their homes to paying guests. Attracted by Augusta's mild winter climate, northern visitors began an annual migration in ever-increasing numbers, so that by the turn of the century, Augusta had become a popular winter resort. In 1889, the Bon Air Hotel was built to accommodate the influx of northern winter tourists. During the resort era, Augusta survived major disasters. Two great floods occurred in 1908 and 1912. A levee was built in 1918 to end that peril. On March 22, 1916, Augusta was destroyed. 746 structures went up in smoke, but there were no fatalities.
During the Roaring Twenties, Augusta rebounded as a resort. The Forest Hills Rica Hotel was built, and many wealthy northern industrialists built fashionable homes in Somerville. In 1931, the Augusta National Golf Course was built, and 3 years later, the first Masters Tournament was played. During the Roaring Twenties, Augusta had many gala parties.
Anybody
Augusta has changed more drastically during the years after 1950 than any other period in its history. In 1952, President Eisenhower discovered Augusta to bring national prominence and renewed luster to the Garden City. Eisenhower made 28 visits to Augusta during his presidency. Fort Gordon is now the largest communication and electronics training facility in the free world. The medical college attracts students from throughout the country to study medicine and its sciences. Today, golf is the major word that puts Augusta on the map each spring when the Masters brings thousands of sportsmen and spectators to the city. Augusta is Georgia's second oldest city. She is also Georgia's second largest metropolitan area. We are very proud of Augusta's heritage. Today, she is thriving with new industry directing her energy full force to the future.
There's a feeling in the air that you can't get anywhere except Augusta. I miss 1,000 yesterdays and I love the southern ways of Augusta. Across the Dixie countryside we share the growing pride of coming touch the sky, where the Santa flies and where the sunset comes for all your neighbors passing by. Makes no difference where I go, you're the best place that I know. Hello Augusta, forest filled you. Makes no difference where I go, you're the best place that I know. Hello Augusta, forest filled love you. Happy birthday, Augusta!
This has really been a treat for me. I just congratulate all the participants here this morning and the teachers and the parents who've worked so hard for this. And really, this has been one of the most special plays on Augusta that I have seen this entire year, and I'm going to remember it for a long, long time. Thank you very much.
There's a feeling in the air that you can't get anywhere except Augusta. I taste 1,000 yesterdays and I love the southern ways of Augusta. Across the Dixie countryside we share the pride each time you touch the sky. Touch the sky. Where the savannah flows to where the sunset goes, we're all good neighbors passing by. Makes no difference where I go, you're the best place that I know. Hello Augusta, hi y'all, Channel 6 on you.
Makes no difference where I go, you're the best place that I know.
Hello Augusta, Georgia.